if you don't prepare for your wildlife shoots, you just may wind up in the hospital just like me. Hey guys, this is Ejan. I am a fashion and a wildlife photographer. I'm going to tell you guys a little preparation secret which is going to help you, and I will be able to tell you guys a story, and then you learn from that if you want to learn, or you get your tips from that. A few years ago, I was asked to go and do a shoot with snow leopards. So I was told, let's go up to the Himalayas. I want snow leopard photographs. So most of our clients basically are close enough to us to tell us what they want and what they don't want. So I try to do the best that I possibly can. For the most part, my clients tell me what they want, what kind of animals they want for their homes and so on, and I go get them and see whether it fits into what they feel and how they want and like, and furniture and blah 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 blah. So I was given a request for the snow leopard. Now mind you, I have to tell you, snow leopard was on my bucket list and I just jumped on it. I'm like, okay, great, I'm doing this. So snow leopard is very, very, very challenging to photograph. Just like this guy over here, the wolf, right? The Arctic wolf is very challenging. But since I have my Arctic wolves, I was overconfident. And I said, yes, of course, I'm gonna go and get the snow leopard. So mistake number one, being overconfident, right? So I was overconfident, and I'll tell you guys later on how and why. I did all my preparation, don't get me wrong. I got on the phone, I spoke with the tracker. He organized other trackers and other people who are going to help us with the trip. The date was set. I took a dummy snow leopard in New York, and I took it outside and I was doing my experiments with the exposure. If the sun is at so and so place, what the exposure is going to be, and so on and so on. Because it's a snow leopard. Number one, it's not going to wait there for me to take the photograph. So the better prepared I am with a dummy snow leopard, the less chances are that I'm going to make mistakes when I'm out in the field. So this fuzzy little dummy snowy leopard in New York that still is at home. So I did all my exposure preparations on that. Exposure, distance, where it would fit in my frame, so on and so forth. So all of that preparation was done. The preparation of speaking with the tracker, that was done too. I'm speaking to them. I'm literally calling them up every single day to a point where they were like, "Ija, stop calling us." Now it was time to go. So I took my camera, one camera body. I mean, one camera, one follow up camera body, right? So I had two camera bodies, one lens. That's all I had was one lens. I had a 800 lens with me, and that too is a story on its own. Those days I was shooting Nikon. So what had happened was I had called Nikon India and I told them that I'm coming over here to take these photographs, and they offered to loan me the 800 millimeter lens. So I landed up from New York to Delhi. In Delhi, someone was waiting for the lens, and they gave me the lens in Delhi. So I got my so far all I have on me are the two camera bodies. I get my lens in Delhi, and then from Delhi I flew up north in India. So now I have my lens and I have my two camera bodies and I have a ton of batteries. I was going to go up and be in the Himalayas for approximately 2.5 weeks. So I flew up north. My tracker comes, picks me up at the airport, and then from there we drive to the hotel. I'm sitting down and I'm talking to him and so on. And he's like, "So you ready?" I said, "Yeah. I mean, I've been going to the gym. I have, 65 pounds on my back every day. I'm going really hard. I've worked out and I'm really strong. And I feel very confident physically I can do it. Because, hey, we were going to hike up the Himalayas, right? I'm eating well. Everything is just proper. Preparation was done. And he says, "Okay, great. We are going to leave in 3 days." I'm like, "What? No, you're crazy. I'm not leaving in 3 days. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm not going to sit in this hotel and do nothing for 3 days." He says, "No, no, sir. You got to acclimate. You can't just leave." I said to him, I said, "Trust me, I am in the best shape of my life. Nothing can stop me right now." He fought me on it for some time, but then he had a smirk on his face and a smile, and he says, "If that's what you want to do, you've hired me, so I'll do it. I'm just going to tell the team, and we'll meet. I'll come pick you up in the morning." I think it was about 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning. I was anxious, so I recharged my batteries. Bag is packed, lens is there, everything is there. Awesome. They pick me up, and they took me to the foothills of Himalaya. So we got off, and I meet my team there. So there were 6 guys who were going to help me for, with my trip, carrying my stuff, pitching the tent, carrying the tent up, cooking food, XYZ. I mean, all the things that one needs. So there were 6. I didn't choose to have 6. I just told my tracker that I want to be up there for 2.5 weeks, and he estimated all the help that we needed. So he hired 6 guys to go up with me. But here's the funny part. It wasn't just the 6 guys. So he hired 6 guys, and these guys came with 6 donkeys. Hey, it's funny. It's funny. I mean, for me, it's funny. But anyway, so there were 6 guys, 6 donkeys, my head tracker, and myself. And since I'm so into it, and I've prepared so hard with my physical self that and my mental self, that I'm like, nope, I'm going to carry my own equipment. I don't need these guys to do anything. So you guys can carry what you are here to carry: the tent and the food and the this and the that and the water and whatnot. But as far as I'm concerned, I am going to carry my own equipment. Okay, great. I do feel at this point that some way, somehow, my breathing is is not up to mark, right? I feel stress breathing. Now, point number 2, preparation. That's where I made a mistake. I didn't read, or I didn't bother to find out that high altitude, what it can do to your lungs and to your system and so on. So we start the hike, we're hiking. 2 hours passed, 3 hours passed, 4 hours passed, and I just can't take my equipment weight anymore. And I look at him and I'm like, he's like, "Sir, do you want me to carry the equipment?" I'm like, "No, no, no, I can still do it." The ego comes in, like, "It's my equipment, I'll carry it. Yeah, I don't need you to carry it. I'm strong enough." The 5th hour, I'm like, "To hell with this, man. I am paying these guys to carry my stuff. They can just I can take out my bag and put it on one of the donkeys, and let the bag go with the donkey, and that's the end of that." Anyway, so I do that, and I can't breathe properly, and I am panting, like 4 steps, and I'm panting, and this ego maniac who thinks he is, really, really fit. I am having trouble walking because I didn't prepare. Point number 3, I didn't prepare to find out the locations, how and what the location works like. You're going up to Alaska, you have to take care of the snow, and wear proper socks, and that's another story that I'm going to tell you guys about. Wear proper socks and so on and so forth. You're going up to the Himalayas, know that you must acclimate. Remember, he told me to acclimate, and I said, no, I'm not going to do this because I'm tough. Anyway, that was a mistake, and it was lack of preparation. So we continue walking. On the sixth hour, I stop, and I say, I need a break. I can't walk anymore. And these guys are looking at me and saying, see what happened? You think you're a tough Indian? Nothing's going to happen. You're not a tough Indian anymore. So they were laughing at me. Anyway, we stop for half hour, we drink, eat, do whatever, and then we start walking up again. So we must have hiked that day for about, I am going to say, 9.5 to 10 hours. After we hiked for 10 hours, I am not doing well. I can't breathe. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I can't breathe, and I can't speak, and I have no from there. I originally come from Bombay. Anyway, so bottom line, we landed up there. They pitched the tent and they said, do you want tea, sir? Do you want this? I'm like, just give me my tent. I want to go inside. I want to go sit down for some time. And he's like, no, 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 let's scout. We are going to go there. And when he said we're going to go there, that was God knows how much higher than where we were. And I'm like, when are we going there? And he says, tomorrow. I was scared. I was scared. I go into my tent and I am laying down. And when I'm laying down, the whole tent started to spin. And I tell you, it was an absolute nightmare. I'm closing my eyes and then reopening my eyes, thinking that it will stop spinning, but it's not. So I open up the zipper of my tent, I come out, I walk over to my tracker, and I look at his face, and he's looking at me like I have horns on my head. I'm like, everything okay? I can't even speak properly. He's like, sir. I'm like, yeah. And then he stopped talking to me. He turns around, looks at the back, and he calls one of the other guys who were there to help. And two of them came running. They look at me and they're looking at me like, oh my God, something's wrong with him. And I'm like, what are you guys looking at? Can you speak to me? And he says, sir, how do you feel? And I'm like, I don't know. And I started to throw up. It was a mess. Here is, I'm going to tell you guys one more time. This was a mistake because I didn't prepare. I prepared on many things, but I did not prepare my location, what I should do and how I should prepare for the location. None of that was in my brain. Call me stupid, but I was only focused on preparing with the camera, with my physical self, and that's it. I didn't look into the location and what I could or could not do. And that comes from being overconfident. And that's what happened to me. Anyway, so bottom line, I throw up. The minute I throw up, the guy says, we gotta go. Now they're having a conversation amongst themselves and they're saying, should we take him down or should we leave him up here? I said, what do you mean? I have a say in this. I'm staying over here and I'm going to go tomorrow morning in the morning. He's like, sir, if you stay here, you're going to die. And I'm like, why? He said, remember I told you to acclimate and you didn't? That was a huge mistake. And I gave in to you and I gave in to your aggressiveness. My mistake as well. Sorry, but we got to go. Then they talk amongst themselves in their language. They put me on a donkey. I can barely stand. Forget walking. I can barely stand. They put me on a donkey. And the decision that they had to make was, should we keep him here and see him die, or should we send him down and possibly he dies again because I did not acclimate to the height, right? So it up north we land at a certain level, the air is thin, you acclimate for a few days, and then you move forward higher. and hire and acclimate, and then hire and acclimate. Of course, Ejaz, the Superman, thought he could do it all without acclimation. Bottom line, they put me on a donkey. The minute I was on the donkey, now by the way, I wasn't sitting on the donkey. My legs were on one side of the donkey, my body fell over to the other side of the donkey, and they said, go. So two guys, one donkey, and Ejaz start to go down as fast as possible. Now it has taken us about, I think, 11 hours, 10, 11 hours to go where we were. We flew down, and after a certain point, I blacked out. I wasn't there. I was just not there. I felt unconscious. So I don't know where I was, but I could hear the sounds of us running and walking and blah, 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 and them talking, and they were getting really, they would come and do this to my face all the time while we were going. Anyway, we reached to the bottom. I don't know how many hours it took. It was pitch dark. And they put me in the car. They rushed me to the hospital. Now, I am in the hospital. I can barely stand. These guys from the hospital come outside and they take me on their shoulders. So I was like this and I was walking. So it wasn't a stretcher, right? I was walked into the hospital, and then I go into the hospital and the windows are broken. It's pre-war. It's like maybe in the 1900s, 1902. And there is a huge hall with beds all over the place. And there are people in there. Anyway, so bottom line, great. Ejaz is there. The doctor comes over. He's like, I have to give you IV. Let's give him oxygen. They put me on the bed. They don't even take my clothes off, right? Nothing. I have the same snowsuit on, so on and so forth. They just pull my hands out and they put the IV in, and I have the mask and I'm taking oxygen. Within 5 minutes or 2 minutes, I don't know, I passed out. I was gone. And here I am in India, which is a foreign place to me now. I don't have my friends there. I don't have my family there. My family's there, but they're in Bombay. I don't have any connection to my cellular phone. I cannot call my wife. I cannot speak to my kids. I am just in a godforsaken place. I shouldn't say it like that, but I'm in a godforsaken hospital with no connections whatsoever. God forbid something happened to me, they would take my body and throw me out, right? Because what? So all those thoughts are going through my head and I'm going nuts. Bottom line, I pass out. After I pass out, I must have gotten up maybe 5-6 hours later, and I have my IV, I have the oxygen, and I'm like, oh my God, where the hell am I? And I pull my oxygen out. I can hear somebody crying. There was a death in the same hall with all these beds, with the windows broken and so on and so forth. And I pull my thing off, and my IV's there, and I'm trying to get up. And the nurse comes running to me, and when I get up, I see that the bed that I was laying in was full of blood. It was full of blood. I'm like, where am I bleeding from? Where am I bleeding from? And the nurse turns around and says, Sir, it's not your blood. It's not your blood. I'm like, what do you mean it's not my blood? And she's like, no, this bed, there was someone there before who had come in. It's his blood. It's not your blood. You are okay. Oh my God, I'm going absolutely nuts. Like, what do you mean? You put me in somebody else's in somebody else's bed that was full of blood? Preparation number 2 or 4 or 5, wherever we are. Know where your local hospitals are. If you're going to travel in a third world country, know the hospital and send your loved ones the contact number of that hospital. I didn't do it. Send your loved ones a GPS location of where you are. Because if you don't have a cellular phone, at least they'll know to come and search for you. I didn't do any of that. Learn that from my mistakes. Anyway, bottom line, I get up. I'm trying to pull the IV off. The doctor comes running and he turns around and he says to me, no, you can't do that. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I am not going to be in this place with a death over there. The whole family is crying. The windows are broken. The ceiling fan, by the way, is all rusty. And you're telling me that I'm in bed with somebody else's blood. That's absolute nonsense. That is my story as far as preparing yourself. If you're going to a location where it's far off, let your family know. When you're there, send them a GPS location positioning of where you are going to be. Prepare before you leave what the environment and what the location is going to do. Know what kind of language they speak over there. No, I'm not saying to learn it. I'm saying just know what kind of language. And in an emergency, what is your exit plan out of there? Because I had none. So I pulled the IV, I pulled the oxygen. I was stern. I told them take me to my room in the hospital. I got the oxygen sent to me over there. They hooked me up in my hotel room. Sorry, in my hotel room. And also another tip: know what would your exit plan be in terms of flying out, because I paid through my nose to get out of that place the very next day. And here is another big one. When you're traveling, you have to research and find a local travel agency and then make good friends with them, because if you are ever in this situation and stuck like that, then they are the only ones that can get you on the flight. Because here I am in a remote place in India, I don't know anybody, and I'm trying to get on a flight because now all of a sudden I have 2.5 3 weeks, and I almost went into a coma in this hospital, and I was laying down in blood, somebody else's blood. I want to throw up. I just don't want to be there anymore, right? So I want to get out, and I'm trying to call people. People are trying from. I mean, of course, when I went back to the hotel, I called New York. I told my wife about it. I called my sister back in Bombay, and everybody's trying to get Ijaz out of there, but no one can, right? And I didn't have a local travel agency in my pocket, so to speak. So then again, I called my tracker, and I said, "You gotta help me out. When are the flights? Next flight?" So the next flights were early in the morning, at 4 5 o'clock in the morning. And if not, then I had to wait for another 3 days, because those were the only flights that were leaving. I had to get onto that flight. Bottom line, he contacted the local travel agency. I spoke with them. I went there and we exchanged money. And I'm like, "You got to get me on." He's like, "Look, I can't promise you anything. I'll meet you at the airport the next morning." So the next morning, I mean, when I say next morning, it's 5 hours after I just pulled myself out of the hospital. In any case, so the next morning I go to the airport, and here I am with this guy, and he just took me through gates and this and that, and paid off people, got me on the flight. Okay, so that is a huge tip. I must tell you, local travel agency has to be in your pocket. And then what do I do with my time? Now I have 2.5 weeks. What do I do? So I say, you know what? I'm a good photographer. Let's do this. Let's go down south, photograph the Black Panther. So I went down south. I did, and here I am, the overconfident photographer, right? Never be overconfident. That's another tip I gotta give you guys. Never, ever be so confident. So anyway, I go downtown. I'm saying I go down south in India to photograph the Black Panther. I'm there, and instead of Black Panther, I photograph the tiger, which is another whole story. And then I photograph some elephants. I photograph some monkeys. But you know what? None up to the power. None at all. None of them were prepared. I did not prepare for monkeys and elephants and tigers. So I came back with nothing. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Please prepare. Not just the camera, it's everything else that makes it. I promise you, you guys will be a better photographer, a better wildlife photographer.